Wanted to offer you a suggestion for writing. This is meant to help you make sense of the readings. It's to help you to post for online discussions, to follow up on online discussions, to engage there. But also it's a way that you can start to generate material to bring into your own essays. And so the shortcut for this is QPC. And so I want to explain what I mean by that in this video. So the suggestion for writing is to identify in a reading, maybe it's Nietzsche, maybe it's Engels, maybe it's something else, what we would identify as a key passage. Right? So what is a key passage? And I've written here that a key passage is a part of the text that you're reading that's either locked or unlocked, right? The key, the lock. Right? It may be that this part of the text you find difficult, but it seems like it's important in some way. Other people have said it's important, or it just seems like there's something interesting going on there, and you're trying to figure it out. So a key passage might be locked. You want to try to open it up. You want to find the key to it and figure how it works. And one way to do that is to start to write about it. Or it might be a passage that you feel you understand very well, right? It might seem open to you, very unlocked, very open, very clear. Probably not obvious to other people, but for you it makes sense. And it might open up the meaning or significance of the text that you're reading or the issue that you're talking about. So a key passage could be a passage that gives you a key, that opens something up for you, or it could be a passage where you need a key. You need some way into the passage to think about it. So maybe this passage is a portal into the text. Maybe it's a connection from one text to another. Nietzsche says this, Engels says that. You see a connection you want to explore. Could turn out to be a tangent or a dead end. And it might really be a tangent or a dead end, or it might just be a locked passage that you need somebody to review with you. In any case, it may be an opportunity to make some inferences, to draw some conclusions from what you're reading, to forge some connections, to raise questions, to answer questions, to find clarity, or to start anew from a different angle. So one of the reasons that we read in college classes is to put things in front of us that we otherwise wouldn't think of, that take us outside of our own thinking. And that's why we're reading Nietzsche and Engels. And so we want to look for those parts of the text that seem significant. So the QPC part, quote, paraphrase, comment. Now, this is not a cookie cutter that's going to work every time, but it does give you a couple of moves that if you feel stumped, you can always write out a quote. Type it out, write it out word for word. In fact, let's say that I had to post in the discussion section. I'm going to find a key quote. Nietzsche says, quote, and it's a sentence or two. Maybe it's a whole paragraph. You type out the quote exactly as it's in the text. You've just fed that through your brain. You've just taken some time to think about it more than just reading it because you retyped it. Right? It's like learning a part if you're in a school play or singing somebody else's song. You've just kind of processed that through your brain. So quoting is really valuable if you take the time to slow down and quote. I'm not saying all this is going to end up in a paper, but it's going to give you something to work with. It's part of generating. A quote, as soon as you quote, and I would say this is true in a paper or true in an activity like this. Anytime you quote, you want to make sure we understand the quote that you do, the way that you do. But first you have to figure out what the quote means, so you paraphrase it. In other words, you take what's there and you write it out in your own words. Don't go to a thesaurus and just look up words and switch them out. That's, I have a robot that'll do that for me. Instead, say, okay, Nietzsche's written these 2, 3, 4 sentences. What does Nietzsche mean by this? And come at it a couple times. You could write 2 paraphrases, 3 paraphrases. Nietzsche says this. In other words, this means this, or this means that. Right? So take some time to paraphrase the quote. And that paraphrase is going to take more time than just typing out a quote. Typing out a quote, you're just typing out a quote. A paraphrase, you have to think and process and work through that. This is meant to slow you down so that you can see what you think. You can find out what you might think about the text that's in front of you. Quote, paraphrase, and then the next step is a generating step. Comment on the significance or meaning of what you just took the time to quote and paraphrase. Right? What does it mean? What does it say? What are the concepts that it offers? What's the special point of view? Clarify why you're discussing it. Why does this pop up for you? What's clear about it? What's puzzling about it? If you can, connect it to other passages that you're quoting. In fact, if you do a couple of these, here's 2 passages from Nietzsche, here's 2 passages from Engels, you could then start to explore the way they connect to each other. Now, this is not a surefire plan to write a paper. If all you did was stitch together a few of these QPCs and call it a paper, I would say you might have a draft, but it clearly wouldn't be a final. But it's a good way to generate material. So QPC, think about that, ask me about it in class.